All right, we're gonna keep chugging through this estate. This little toolbox, I got excited whenever I saw it. It was in the basement, and it was kind of sitting underneath a workbench. So I was like, okay, what's under there? There's some power tools and stuff. Nothing I was that interested in. A bunch of Ryobi stuff that, who knows, a couple generations old Ryobi, probably batteries you can't get anymore. So stuff I didn't really want to touch. But there was this little Craftsman toolbox and this little Park toolbox underneath there. So I pulled them out, and the little Craftsman, that yielded probably, I'm going to lump it together as one set, even though they're not a set. And that's going to be the Circle U Craftsman sockets. So if you don't know, those are Plum. They were made by Plum. And then the ratchet that was in there with them was actually an old Industro. There's a little jump at the end of the video where I looked up the patent for it, because it only had a patent number on it. It didn't have any branding. Looked up the patent, and it was the two guys who most of the industrial patents are with. It has, what's interesting is it has the lever. So the directional lever it's really nice. It's lined and it kind of curves over. And it honestly reminds me of the Circle U Craftsman ratchet, which I do have now to put with that set. And I do have the one missing socket now. So at some point I'm going to do a cleanup video on that. But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite for this entire estate haul. So check it out. In this round, we'll look inside this Park toolbox and see what we came out of there with in here. So the toolbox itself is a Park model 82272. Park, if you don't know Park, they made a lot of bicycle stuff. So this is the kind of toolbox you'd see at bicycle shops, that kind of thing. Okay, there's not a lot in this one, but we'll pull it out. So this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a leading iron. I know I've seen hot rodders use it for heating up and smoothing lead on seams whenever they let a car make a lead sled. Back in the days before Bondo, hot lead was used. Here we have a ball peen hammer. Don't see any markings on it, but it's not in bad shape. The end's not all torn up or anything. Handle, I've seen a little wear right up by the head. I'm not seeing any branding or anything. Maybe we get that cleaned up and we'll find some branding on it. Next is a laser gun. Just kidding. It's an all-pro DC power timing light. It's made in USA. Has a serial number. These old made in USA timing lights, you can't beat them. If you buy a new one, pretty much you can only find them on places like Amazon. They're plastic and they fall apart. Always keep these old chrome ones if you got them. Newer is not always better, guys. Next we've got this guy. Wasn't sure what it was. It's threaded. I'm not sure what it threads into or anything, so I didn't get rid of it because I wasn't sure what it was. Here we have a Stanley Handyman wood chisel. Yeah, not necessarily my forte, but definitely people out there who use those things. So here we've got a hole saw bit, another hole saw bit. We've got this soft hammer, wood hammer. I think it's a wood hammer, coated wood hammer. We've got a pair of pliers. They don't look to have a name on them. They're really black on that side. Pretty typical handle pattern, just diamonds. So yeah, maybe they'll get cleaned up and we'll see something. Maybe they'll just become a generic set of pliers. Here we've got a nice auger bit. Another file. This is a puller. You can see it's got a name, Katie. That's a KD Tools puller. Seems to be missing the shaft. Oh, I wonder. Doesn't seem like it goes in there. There it does. It's a left-handed thread. That's why I didn't feel like it went in there. So yeah, now we know what that goes to. That's why we don't get rid of things if we don't know what they are. Here we've got a punch. So this would be, it's a burger. What we have here is it's a punch and ring eyelet set. So let's say you've got a piece of fabric, canvas, or like leather, and you need to punch a hole and put a ring eyelet in. First you put it over here. You line it up, and then you push your hole through it. Then you come over to this side and you set your ring eyelets on either side of the hole. And then you push this down and it forms your ring eyelet. So that is handy. Here we've got a wrench, 13/16 and 3/4. And it's a Fairmount. It's a tappet wrench. Next up is a micrometer. It looks like it's, yep, Brown and Sharp Manufacturing. Turns nice and smooth. Yeah, that's a nice mic. In the case the right way. As an engineer, we were taught how to use all these types of things. Here we have a DC volts volt checker. Look how old that beast is. That's a General Electric Bakelite case. That is cool. I don't know that I would ever use it for anything. I mean, it's possible, but it's definitely cool. And then the final piece that's in here is a manual drive Stuart Warner tachometer. So it looks like it goes to 3,500 RPM. So yeah, this wouldn't be a tach you'd put in a car or anything, but it'd be great for checking like run out on a lathe, that kind of stuff. And it's Stuart Warner, which is an awesome manufacturer of gauges. So definitely some cool finds inside that little park box. So let's take a peek at this. Don't think you'll be able to see it there, but if you know that logo, that's a Craftsman oval. So this was right after the underline C. So it's kind of the next logo. So this was a late 40s into the 50s logo, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's a lot of Craftsman guys that know a lot more about that stuff than I do. Me, I just think it's all cool. Grab a screwdriver. Close that latch good enough that it doesn't want to pop out. I don't want it ripping my fingernail out. Okay, so we'll slide this back a little bit. I did go through this one whenever I was doing the sorting. So kind of what I did is I put stuff that probably is less interesting on this top shelf. So here we have a 36 millimeter, 1/2-inch drive impact socket. No branding on it, other than it does say made in USA. 36 millimeter is not a bad size to have. Here we've got a couple roller form wheels. Not sure what they're for. Looks like they get cleaned up. You might see a brand name on there, which will give us the ability to decipher what they are. Here we've got this piece. Looks like you can unscrew that, pull that bit out, and it might flip around. There's another bit piece in here. Again, maybe, let me clean this one up real quick. It looks like it has some writing on it. Not that that was helpful at all. It says SCR period space MCH. So that didn't help me decipher what it was. And then we've got cutter bits in here, a couple reamers, some round stock. It's not knurled or anything. Those, if you know what those are, you're old. If you look up there, they're not in bad shape. There's a decent amount of material on both sides. So these might get thrown in a drawer. These are breaker points. This is what these would open and close, and that's what would send spark through the plug wires to your spark plugs in old cars before they use solid state electronics to control. So things like my 71 Lincoln, my 48 Chrysler, my 46 Ford, because it has a 71 Mercury engine in it, they all have breaker points. That's really all there is in here. There's some different nuts and stuff in this top section. So with that, a couple nuts here. We'll look at this bottom section. So this is a double box end, made in USA, just forged select steel. If you know me, if you watch my videos, I've explained this a few times. That means it's an Industro. Industro and the trademark select steel. Here we have a custom tapered 13/16 Flying V Craftsman deep. Probably somebody ground that down on the end for wheels. I only know this because I have one somewhere that I did that to. And 13/16 is a pretty common Ford size for wheels. Here's a 3/4 Flying V. Has a little bit of pitting to it, but that should clean up pretty well. Here we have a Ward's Master Quality 1 1/4. What I find interesting is the lines on that. That's an Industro. I didn't realize they made stuff for wards. So see, we learn something new every day. And we've got another 9/16, probably in that same set as that wards. Definitely the industrial side. Oh, this one's a DJ. It's a 3/4, but it's an industrial as well. What do we have here? Another Craftsman 5/8 deep flying V. Here we have a Fleet 1/2 inch 12-point. Here we have a Craftsman Circle U 1/2 inch drive extension. Here's another one of those industrial 1/2 inch. Here's a Craftsman Circle H 1/4 drive T breaker bar. Nut and bolt. Here, this is a Ford wrench. Looks like it's a little different than the ones I've seen. I don't have this one. Usually whenever they've got this curve like this, it's a spark plug wrench, and this end's for the spark plug. This end, I think, is for the topper on the spark plug, so that you can attach the wire. But it's got this cut in it as well. And that's what makes it different than the ones I've had before. So that one's definitely cool. Now, what else do we have in here? Here we have this chisel. Not seeing any branding on it. It's a big one. Unfortunately, that end has been knocked off. You can see that. But it can be reground. There's definitely enough shaft on here to change it up a little bit. This looks like a hold down for a lawnmower blade, the mulcher piece. So you put this underneath, and then it pushes the clippings back up in, so it mulches. Not sure why I called it a hold down. I knew what I meant. Don't question me. This one is a manifold wrench. It says V Starter and Manifolds USA. And then when you flip it over, it's a pointed A Craftsman. I've not seen this one before. Found that one interesting. Here we have a ratchet, and I know this ratchet. It's got the switch wraps around the end, and that's why I know it. And it's got the thumb wheel right here. I'm not seeing any branding on it. Maybe I will run that on the wire wheel real quick. It does say number 3202-B. So I may have to look that one up. Here we have an empty box. And a speed wrench. And this one is a Craftsman Circle U. I guess the reason we have all these Craftsman Circle U's in here is we have nearly a complete set. We've got 1 1/8. One and a 16th. 1. 15/16. 7/8. So it's 14/16. Those of us counting by 16ths. 13/16. 3/4. So 12/16. Next up should be 11/16. So then 10/16, which is 5/8. 9/16, which I don't have in here, and 1/2 inch. So it is nearly a complete Circle U set with breaker bar, with extension, and with whatever this ratchet is. They were headed for the trash. Glad we got there and got this saved. This is a cool box. All right, guys, I want to give you a quick update on this. I was able to see this patent number here, 1902878. So it's a William Peterson design, and I can't remember the other guy's name. This is a Duro, 1933 Duro ratchet. Usually they have a plate right there that says Durochrome. That's what I was missing, was this raised plate that said Durochrome. I was like, I know I've seen this where the lever bends over the side, because I always thought that was really neat. So that's what it is. This will definitely be going in my Duro Industro drawer. So it must be what came with those other sockets, those wards or whatever. Because those are the Duro Industro style. Definitely cool though. I figured I'd keep you posted.